Alright, in this video I'm going to be doing a bike check of my 2019 YT Decoy base model. After this bike check video, I'm going to compare this Decoy against my 2020 Enduro. They're both very similar bikes, besides one being an e-bike, but they both have 180 millimeter forks, 29-inch wheels up front. Except this Decoy is a mullet, and of course it's an e-bike, and I'll talk about later on why I chose to purchase this e-bike to go along with my Enduro. Okay, for the cockpit I'm running 780 millimeter nuke-proof bars. They're carbon bars. They're 31.8 millimeter clamp diameter. They're really good bars, really inexpensive bars. The levers, Shimano SLX trigger, all that stock, ODI grips, the stock dropper post, 50 millimeter stem, spank stem. And I like these bars because they're a pretty low rise bar. I think they're like 13 or 15 millimeter rise bars, because the stack height's actually quite high on this one, on this bike. So I want to kind of lower the front end a little bit for a little more grip for the front wheel. For the dropper, I changed out the 150 millimeter dropper to a 210 millimeter one-up dropper. So with the 210 dropper, it feels kind of weird because it puts you so low on the bike that it feels really odd, but it does really get out of the way with such a long dropper post. For the brakes, I changed them from SRAM Code Rs to Shimano Z brakes. For such a heavy bike, I really appreciate the extra stopping power and also lighter action. I spilled a little bit of mineral oil on the stock fin pads, so I replaced them with non-fin pads temporarily. But they seem to be working just fine for the rear. So I'm running these Z calipers, Shimano calipers, on a SRAM rotor. Okay, so the bike came with a 160 millimeter Yari fork. Yari is a good fork. Very supple off the top, pretty good mid-stroke support, and the only issue I had with the Yari was hard compressions, or fast or hard compressions were a little bit on the harsh side. Having a high-speed compression adjustment would really be helpful for this type of bike. So I decided to upgrade it to upgrade the internals to be similar to a Lyric Ultimate. So to do that, you just buy the Charger 2.1 damper and just change that out. Super easy to change out. Just remove the old motion control damper, put the new RC 2.1 Charger damper in, and that's it. Change out the seals to SKF seals. Change out, make sure I use the fluids and the grease on that's recommended for the Lyric Ultimate. And I also changed the air spring from 160 to 180 millimeters. Alright, so that 180 millimeter fork really does slacken the head tube angle quite a bit. It's 63.5 degrees, and it used to be 63.9, but since I changed my rear tire from a 2.8 to a 2.4 DHR2, it slackened it by another like 0.3 to 0.4 degrees. So right now the bottom bracket's at 335 millimeters. That's pretty low. Despite the bigger fork, it's still very low at 335 millimeters. When I had 2.8 inch tires in the back, it was 340 millimeters. So it was still, YT quoted it a little bit higher than that, but it's actually, when I physically measured it, it was pretty damn low. What I've done to reduce pedal strikes is I've changed the crank length from 165 millimeters to these Miranda 155 millimeter cranks. They were only like 50 or 60 bucks, so they're pretty cheap to upgrade that. So now I don't have an issue with pedal strikes anymore. Alright, so out back I have a DVO Jade with a 450 pound spring. At that spring rate, I'm at 27% sag. I also have a 400 pound spring, which puts me at about 31% sag. I found that I was bottoming out too frequently with the 400 pound spring, so this spring rate works out a lot better for me. And one of the benefits with having a little bit less sag is it keeps you up a little bit higher, so that also helps reduce pedal strikes. So I'm running a tire insert front and rear right now. That way I don't have to bring a pump or CO2 or patches or plugs with me. If I get a flat tire, I'm just gonna run it flat all the way home. I'm running the Victoria Airliner tire inserts, and with those inserts you're able to go for about an hour with zero pressure. Other tire inserts, after about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes or so, other inserts, they tend to lose their strength, and you basically have a flat tire riding home. Okay, so this bike is pretty damn heavy. It weighs 55 pounds as shown. That's with the pedals. Pedals are about a pound. And one of the reasons why it's so heavy is you've got that extra pound because of the coil shock. And I also have 1 pound worth of tire inserts. Without pedals, without the coil, without the inserts, you're looking at a 52-pound bike as shown. This 210 millimeter dropper is a little bit heavier than the stock 150. And the brakes, the Shimano Saints or Z brakes are a bit heavier than the stock Code R brakes. So other than that, it's a pretty heavy bike. It feels okay. You get used to it real quick. Okay, other than that, just let me know if you have any questions. Just leave them in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. See ya.